There we go. We're live. Hey, it's like the first time every time, you guys. I'm still playing with the lighting. I still look washed out, a little greasy. Yeah, it looked like I just washed off clown makeup. Let's see. There's two people here. Laura was here first, so she gets the prize today, which is just that I said she was first. But welcome to ISO Buddies, guys. Tonight we have Andres Rivera from Feeder Plug, and I'll have a link down in the bio. I don't know, or the in the down there part, whatever it's called, the description. There we go. But we are going to be talking about feeder insects. Lots of feeder insects, like why to have them, why to do live, the benefits, the excitement of the live, all the different reasons, all the different feeders. Oh, Tennyson's here. I saw that you were looking at this, Tennyson, that you were liking it again. So I knew I'd have some other people. I don't think we'll have a whole lot of Latin names for you, though, tonight. Sorry, guys. I'm still a little. I'll get there. We'll get back eventually. If you can see, the ghost is making my focus come in and out. They say on the Ghost Hunters that it goes by the camera and makes the focus come in and out. So that's what it is. It's not my technology. It's ghosts, clearly. Spirits. That said, if you can't tell, I'm stalling a little bit so that Andres can finish up his feeding of his feeders, which sounds ironic, but probably not. Gotta go figure out to say hi. Things have been busy. Everybody's busy lately. It's the holidays, I think. So, but thanks for coming by anyway. Yeah, so while we're waiting, we can go over all the other housekeeping stuff. So, subs are up. We're doing well. We're doing great. It's a great show. I love doing it. We're having a good time. We've got some good guests started. Next week, we are going to have, next Tuesday is Podsgiving. So tell that special someone that you care about them this Podsgiving. It's important. So make sure they know they're loved. Not as much as you love your isopods, maybe, but some love. Whatever you have left, some vestige. That's French, probably, right? Let them know. Let them know you care. Let them know that everything's going to be okay because it's Podsgiving. It's going to be myself, Russ Wilson, Wally Kern, and some animals enjoying a very great holiday. I plan to make some waffles made with chicken. Hey, Moon! Made with chicken. So for the ants, we're going to feed Sheila. She's going to be my Podsgiving guest. I don't know what Wally and Russ are going to do. I'm guessing Wally's going to do isopods. We have talked about making waffles. So that's good. So I've got spider webs everywhere down here. I think I dust once in a while. Nope. But we're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time. It's always a good time. And we're going to do some traditions. We're going to turn it into traditions so you can do it at home. You can Podsgive along with us at home. You can be excited for the holiday. Thanksgiving is the superior holiday. If you have a difference of opinion, you're welcome to it. I'm always supportive of people being wrong. Leave your holiday in the comments. Leave a comment with your favorite holiday. How about that? Oh, we got Menagerie here. You didn't miss anything yet. We're waiting for Andres to finish feeding his feeders. So things came up, which has been kind of a theme lately for everyone. So holidays, stressful. You've got just all kinds of stuff. We talk about stress here an awful lot. So use your pods, use your friends, use the community. I just found out ISO Buddies has a community chat going. I had no idea. Whoever started it, thank you. It just kind of happened. Does he feed other feeders to the feeders? In some cases, maybe. I don't know. We'll ask. We'll definitely ask if the feeders eat feeders. He said something about like some kind of liquid, I think. Something. I don't know. We'll see. I guess it depends on what you're feeding. I didn't know about the chat. No, I didn't know. I didn't know it existed. I was looking at my own channel and was like, oh man, there's a chat here. What is this? I didn't know what it was. And it said it had like 25 members or 25 people were active. And I was kind of blown away. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry. I had like a nose hair just bothering me. So I didn't want to get that on camera. Yeah, now you need another chat. So to get away from me being in the chat. Yeah, I popped in for like a second and saw a Dan. I don't know Dan. I probably know Dan. I also saw some beefs going on this week. Um, I have some advice to folks. If you are dealing with someone and you're having a hard time getting a hold of them or getting your money back or whatever, I get it. It's frustrating. Things happen. So my advice to everyone, and this is coming from somebody who loves beef, loves drama, loves confrontation, try to reach out to see if anybody can get a hold of them first. Like maybe the thing you put on a group page is, hey, can anybody get a hold of this guy? Can anybody get a hold of Josh? He owes me $75 because I bought a cat from him. If you want to buy my cat, let me know. All you have to pay is shipping. Both of them. I'll pay half shipping. That's not true. But if you have a beef, maybe see if someone you know can reach out to them. Somebody in a group that you know they're a member of, maybe a mod or something that can reach out to them separately and say, hey, what's going on with this? I just want to touch base before this becomes a public fiasco. I'm seeing a lot of it. I'm seeing a lot of people just like call out people who have made mistakes. Some of it's honest mistakes. Some of it's obviously not. Some of it's scams. But I've reached out to a couple people just on my own. I haven't been asked to, and it's been resolved. So yeah, so it's basically gotten resolved. So what is this? What is this? Andres still for 2 minutes listening in the background. Okay, good. He's listening in the background, guys, so we can stop talking trash about him. It's Andres. No, it's not. It's not. But I have mediated a couple of these things in the recent past, and I think it's gone well. Not ideal. The situations are never ideal, but they got resolved as far as I know, or are being resolved. I will be touching base and checking up on my people. Use my powers for good. Yep, Jedi knows. I did a little housekeeping for him to help out, reach out, and mediate. See, and really all it is another person reaching out to be like, "Hey, man, what's going on with this situation? I heard something is going on. Is it getting resolved?" And yeah, it helped. It immediate results. So, and you can be cool about it. Just be cool about it. Be considerate to both parties. So yeah, I got Jedi a resolution that was okay. It wasn't, again, not ideal, but what's ideal anymore? It's 2023 in America. There's not much ideal. Even Victoria's Secret doesn't send the catalogs anymore. So what kind of world is this? What kind of world is this we're living in? Like, I guess kids have the internet now, so you don't need to steal a big Victoria's Secret catalog. Not anymore. Not anymore. We don't need them. Nothing's on paper anymore, right? No paper trail. This went off the rails real fast, you guys. Tonight we are going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to air some grievances. We are going to talk about different feeders, the benefits of using different feeders and what they are, changing it up. Hopefully I get some tips on fruit flies. If you guys know somebody who does good fruit flies, let me know, because I need to start some. Because I want to start a Lego setup for a jumper. So I will need fruit flies first and then a jumper, or at the same time. So our ideals died with Full House and the other 90s sitcoms. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's still, I don't know what sitcoms there are now. Nobody watches sitcoms. Nobody like streams a sitcom. Full House wouldn't have made it. Nobody's going to stream a sitcom. Or do you? Do you guys stream like a new one? Is there a new like sitcom being streamed, or is it all just syndication stuff? Fruit flies from Josh's Frogs and the culture food. I've kind of promised to not do anything for Josh's Frogs. So to a couple people, it's not great, but I'm glad you had a good experience. And if you listening choose to use Josh's Frogs, that's fine. That's up to you. I'm not boycotting them or calling for a boycott. I just have heard some really bad stories about how they are in business practices and how they treat ex-employees, and it's not good. It's not great. But that's okay. I mean, see, you've had good experience with them, and that's good. As a customer, awesome. I heard their customer service is really good. I've never used them. I did buy some plants from them at Expo, because they have a bunch of awesome terrarium plants, you guys, if you can. They're so good. A Rapashi fruit fly media. Cool. I have an extra container with the medium. I haven't, hydrated it or whatever, but it's there. with the what is it? The frass? It's not frass. What's the hay that's in there? What is that hay? I forget. It's got a word. It's got a word. It's like I don't know. Don't let your dog eat it. That's all I know. You'll be in the vet real quick. Excelsior? How do I not know that? Stan Lee's biggest fan didn't know that. Okay. All right. Well, it's Excelsior. So, Andres is just gone. So maybe he'll log in a second here. Yeah, I think there's some great tricks, but yeah, I just want to get fruit flies. So, a non-Josh's Frog fruit flies, non-bug hub, or not bug hub. Bug hub is awesome. Smug bug, non-smug bug, I just won't support either of them, I guess, personally. I won't deny you from doing it. I won't decline. Go ahead. Do what you want. Do what you feel is right. If you want more details, reach out. I'll give them to you. Jetta's got Excelsior. You can use coffee filters. They don't get soggy and crappy? Oh, he's back, you guys. All right, stop talking about him. All right, here we go. We're going to talk about the Silkworm Mafia later. We're going to get into that later. It's going to be dope, you guys. So I'm so overhyping it. It's ridiculous. We're not going to get any details or names, but we're going to get into the weird, wild world of silkworms eventually. Spoilers. Andres!
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for joining us. Oh, he's mobile, guys. If you have problems with motion sickness, just look away for a minute. I'll let you know when he sits down. All right, he's sitting down. Are you on your front porch?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous. That looks like a screened-in thing or an enclosed porch. Yeah? Is that the situation?
Yeah. Well, no, it's just I live in Miami, so it's only like 72 degrees outside.
Oh, my God. All right. It's only 72. That's like I'd be sleeping outside with a light blanket. I have to do that thing where you have the one corner on you. I have to have a corner of a blanket on me no matter what. Russ makes his own media with cinnamon and potato flakes.
Yeah, I heard you talking about fruit flies. You know, I just did like 400 of those things. I got some ready to ship to go.
I'll be reaching out to you after the show and see what we can do. I don't have anything. I want to do them for. I want to get some jumpers, and I want to get, and I get small crickets anyway. But I want to. My aunts love chasing fruit flies, and it's the funniest thing in the world to watch ants chase fruit flies. So they will definitely get eaten. I got ants, fish. What else? That's about it. Ants, fish, and possibly jumpers in the near future. So
I just bought the wife a jumper spider at the last expo.
Yeah,
like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, she enjoys it.
Do you know what kind?
A regal, just a regular regal. I traded the vendor some fruit flies for it.
He's got one less mouth to feed and a lot of stuff to feed with. Perfect. I like that idea. Anybody watching that Lucas? Anybody got kids watching Lucas the Spider on Netflix? There's a new CGI. It's that Lucas the Spider. You've probably seen him online, but he's got his own little show now. And my wife made fun of me because I knew he was a regal jumping spider. I was like, oh, he's a regal. So that's the kind of nerd you get to be when you can identify the species of the cartoon jumping spider. But anyway, Andres, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yes.
I think the last time I tried to have you on, I canceled because I was sick or something. Something was going on. Is that true?
Yeah, we had one where I had to postpone, and then you were sick, and then, yeah.
Well, so we did it. So anyway, I got to go. Carry on. Carry on. Oh, they're talking amongst themselves. Good. I'll let you know if there's questions that come up, but we're going to get into this a little bit. So, all right. So you talked about fruit flies, and I mentioned silkworms. So what else? Tell me a little bit about what have you got in your stable, as it were.
Okay.
What's on the menu at Feeder Plug?
So everything we produce, we're Florida's largest producer for the Florida legal species of feeder roaches, deathhead, horseshoe crab, discoid roaches. Those are all varieties that we make available here in Florida. We have 3 buildings just for roaches. I have a crew of 4 that is required to take care of them. We also have, I actually spent this weekend in a U-Haul for 500 miles this weekend, moving around racks and tray pans as we expand superworms, mealworms, and waxworms. We also just restarted hornworm production again because I did stop it a year ago. And then because I was focusing on silkworms and then silkworms, fruit flies, and then black soldier flies. So we pretty much do it all as of right now. And we're doing great. We're growing, and I've added a lot of cool team to my staff that worked for other larger feeder companies that are now under me, and so it's allowing us to expand a lot. So that's why
That's
we're
awesome.
adding all the fun stuff and expanding and spending time in a U-Haul all weekend.
I mean, that's an investment in your business. That keeps you working for the man and doing
Yeah,
your own thing. So that's some willing sacrifice. That's a good sacrifice.
and I've been up
Um,
since 6 in the morning, and it's 9 o'clock at night, and I just
uh, and we're gonna keep you on another 2 hours. This is crazy. Oh, it's a rough day. Um, so I'm glad we got to. Did you get all your feeding done? That you had to feed the feeders?
Yeah, well, the thing is I had to prep the silkworm food, and I completely forgot about Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So, I forgot Black Friday and the holiday shipping week, so I didn't realize it was cutting my week short next week. So, and all pet shops under the sun are having Black Friday sales, so we're trying to supply. A lot of shops are double ordering right now because they plan on doing like buy one get one 50% off type deals.
Oh, sure, sure,
Uh,
sure.
so I'm like slammed with 2 weeks worth of work in 1 week, and then I have to be ahead of the food to be able to do the only shipping day I have, which is Monday next week. And the food, the downside to cooking the silk food is it takes basically 8 to 12 hours to set and congeal and cool down before it's usable. So it's not like I could wake up in the morning, cook it, pour it, and then put worms in it. No, if I don't prep the food the night before, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. And it can
Uh,
totally mess up your schedule not having enough food on hand,
well, that'll
unfortunately.
totally wreck your population, probably, right?
Well, it's not so much that because I make sure my stuff is fed, but it's. I mean, I buy food by the pallet now, so I always have
Wow.
food. It's just the time it takes to make it. A ten
Yeah.
pound bag takes an hour and 15 minutes, and that gives me roughly around 40 pounds of food, and I have to go through about 6 to 8 of those bags a week. So I literally spend 12 hours in front of the stove and a microwave above it and just and burning your hands constantly because the stuff is mixed in boiled water, then microwaved for 13 minutes. And you got to
Microwave
mix
for
it
13
again.
minutes.
So it's like playing with lava.
See, like a kitchen. You need to get an old restaurant and renovate it into
Yeah,
bug
I actually
heaven.
need a walk in fridge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, there's all kinds of restaurants that closed during COVID, and they're just sitting there. Talk to your county, talk to your
Yeah,
city.
I know. I was talking with one of my partners, and we were talking about getting walk-in fridges, and we're looking for restaurant closings as we speak. Trying to
See,
find the fridge.
they have a lot of good
Walk-in
reach-ins
fridges.
too. Yeah, you can probably get some good reach-ins. Um, more on that later. But hey, I got our first question from our guests while we're on while we're in the fact that you're in Florida. So they want to know if you know why discoid roaches are allowed and not dubia. I know
Because
the discoid more
well,
likely to.
so the three non-climbing species of roaches, discoid, deathhead, horseshoe crab roaches, are legal in Florida for the reason that they have native populations here that have been deemed, even though they got placed here off of ships, however long ago, back in the day,
Okay.
kind of like the Asian mantis, where basically they dub it a native species because it's just been there for so long and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, discoids, deathheads, horseshoe crabs, even though they're more of a South American roach, they've been here for the longest time. and established populations to no harm. So there is no risk of raising those, them getting loose, and there being a new roach on the loose, opposed to dubia. Dubia get loose, that's a whole nother roach that's an issue,
Yeah.
and they will survive down here.
Oh, for
And
sure.
and the thing between discoid and like death head to dubia are not as detrivorous as discoid death heads are, so they don't really do nothing for the environment as helpful as those two roaches do. Those two
Okay.
roaches are kind of cleanup roaches, they eat the leaf litter, the rotted fruits on the ground, stuff like that.
Okay.
Dubia just get into your trash,
Let's
everything else, and
make a big
we
problem.
got enough of those roaches here in Florida.
And the palmettos. You need to
Yeah,
breed
the
feeder
4.5 inch
palmettos,
palmettos,
dude.
exactly.
If you breed feeder palmettos for the monitor squads,
No, I can't. I
telling you.
can't. I can't. Man, mentally, it just I deal with roaches but something that looks like a German roach just makes you just go.
That's true.
Uh,
That's true. They're creeps. They're creeps.
yeah, trust me. If you've seen enough palmettos, they're nasty. They're nasty
I've only
roaches.
seen a few, but they're the ones I saw. I remember being pretty big. Like,
Yeah, they get 4.5, 5 inches,
yeah, definitely. That's a good feeder
and
for a big
even
lizard.
even a death head roach only gets 3.5.
Okay, so you're looking at a massive roach species. That's okay. And they give the
Yeah,
name
they're
palmetto
fast.
bug to make it like cooler somehow.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're fast and they can run up the wall like Spider-Man, like nothing.
I know they fly too. They're like decent flyers, aren't they? Or am I
Yeah,
thinking of
they're
something else?
flyers.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm out. I don't need
Yeah,
any like flying vermin.
yeah, exactly.
Hard pass. So, all right. So we're getting into roaches. You don't do any crickets, right? You don't do anything like crickets or anything like that.
No, crickets. Unfortunately, I do so many other types of feeders where crickets are not, as of right now, worth the time for me to raise. So I get supplied through various suppliers in different areas.
I heard there
Um,
is savage competition among cricket breeders. Like people are crazy about breeding crickets.
Yeah, well, the thing is the margins are really, really low. So crickets probably have the smallest margin of all feeders, right in
Sure.
there with mealworms. Not to say that there's not money, but it's kind of like the feeder rodent game where you need massive square footage to accommodate actual profit. So that becomes an issue. Like, for example, I can make in a 300 square foot room with roaches what I would be able to make in a 2,500 square foot room with crickets.
God, and a lot less work.
It's a lot more manpower. Yeah, it's basically the way I always word it, and I don't want to like word it to degrade it in a way because everything is needed at the end of the day. But for
Sure.
me, it'd be like chasing pennies and throwing away quarters,
Sure.
just because of the niche type of stuff that I produce.
Well, and I mean, those are getting more and more popular. I see that people are getting that variety of feeders, not just throwing a bunch of crickets in, every couple times a week or whatever it is. People are trying to get that variety, and so I think we were talking about that before we aired today or yesterday, talking
Yeah.
about how variety beneficial that is for your animals.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. So the main thing is like, so at shows, I'll get a lot of people who have bearded dragons, and the only thing they want to buy is superworms and nothing but superworms. So they're exclusively feeding a bearded dragon, whatever their veggies are, hopefully, and superworms because, well, superworms are the easiest to keep of one of the feeders alive, and that's fine and all. However, superworms by themselves really shouldn't be fed to bearded dragons probably more than twice a week at best
sure.
because they are really fatty. And bearded dragons, especially captive bearded dragons, are notorious for being lazy and just putting on weight like crazy.
Yes.
So it's not wise to just do exclusive superworms. There's just no balance to that diet. That's like eating a Big Mac every day. Um, And then, so, you should always vary it up with crickets, a lot less fat, leaner protein,
Fiber.
roaches, of course, um, is one of the best options as far, especially discoids, because they're lean in fat opposed to dubia. Dubia are actually really fatty. Um, and it's kind of like the best way I describe dubia to discoid is like going to your grocery store and buying 73% lean beef, so it's like gonna just not great beef, and then you have the 90% plus, lean beef, which is the more expensive stuff. It's basically the discoids is the leaner and the dubia is the 73%. So, and then not only that, you also have the issue of the chitin structure. Dubia almost have garbage for natural calcium. Um, so, like, you have to powder and add calcium supplement with dubias.
Okay.
It's a need, not an option. Discoids is an option, because the chitin structure is actually fully digestible by reptiles. Um, that's why, and then the one thing, the issue is with discoids to dubia. So when you say one dubia roach is equal to 4 crickets, you hear that all the time. One roach is
Okay.
equal to 4 to 6 crickets. Okay, that's somewhat true. However, 100 small dubia at a quarter inch weighed on a scale is 4 grams. 100 discoids weighed on a scale is between 10 and 12 grams. So discoids are
Wow.
actually 3 times more in weight by in the same size as dubia. But that's the issue of trying to sell out of state, out of Florida, though, is you can't price them the same as discoids. A lot of people get misconstrued that, 100 roaches is 100 roaches, but that's far from it. It's basically one discoid is 3 dubia in a sense
Wow.
when you by pure gram weight, you know. So that's a lot of things that's just not information that's out there like readily available, because discoids are a little bit more challenging to breed than dubia. They require more uh, additives to make them successful. So dubias took over because they're a bit more dummy proof and less risk of losing stuff.
If I can breed dubia, literally anybody can do it. Like, it's pretty wild how much they're so easy. Just a little bit of heat, keep them fed, done. Keep them
Yeah,
relatively clean. So it's easy. I've never done discoids. I'm not a roach guy. Like I have dubias here, but not many. Not I have a small culture going.
yeah.
Small
The,
colony.
the the main the main issue out there is that you can raise discoids like dubia, like mirror to mirror, and that's far from the truth. First off, discoids can't handle the heat. Yes, they live in Florida. However, during the day when it's 100 degrees out, they're buried under logs. They're buried under leaves. They're somewhere
Okay.
where it's cool. They're diggers. So unlike dubia are not really diggers by any means. They just thrive on the legit heat. Where discoids need to hide from it basically during the day and they come out at night. Well, in Florida at night, it's typically mid 70s, low
Yeah,
80s,
yeah.
in the summer. So that's ideal temperatures between 82, 86, not no 90 plus. You're going to watch your males die first and you're going to stress out your females and they're just going to abort constantly. And the only downside with discoids is they need a substrate layer, which makes them you have to sift kind of like you would superworms or mealworms, depending on the substrate you use. We have our own proprietary blend that we had made with Permium Exotics over a year ago. And to this day, he still supplies us. We tested many different formulas, and we do sell it, which it works great. It's an organic mix that they actually eat. But the nymphs need places to hide because, along with that 3 times in weight with the discoids, they are protein savage and they're gluttons. They eat like trucks compared to dubia. And they will think nothing less of picking off their own if they're exposed and smaller.
Sure.
So they will literally eat the babies as the babies are born if the babies have no substrate to burrow in the moment they come out. You'll see as soon as they come out of an ootheca for discoids, the
Yeah.
babies just go into the substrate
Just
after
dive
they
in.
break off. Yep, they just dive in and harden up.
Wild.
Without that, the larger ones will just come and pick them all off.
So that's crazy. And they're like cold hardy too, though. You can have them in a
Oh yeah,
colder area.
they can tolerate. I've seen them tolerate pretty well, about 40, mid 40s.
Oh
They
God.
can tolerate. They get really sluggish. You know, you don't want to keep them there too long, but they can tolerate it.
So like room
And
temps? We're talking like room temps. Are they good?
oh, room temp roach, yeah, they actually
Yeah.
they will produce better than dubia for room temp
Very
because
nice.
dubia require it to be hot.
Sure.
Discoids don't require it to be as hot. It just means the gestation period is more around the max range of 45 days, opposed to 25, 30 day.
Oh, so you're not turning them around. Like if you're just doing a little bin in your basement or something for the feeders or for the things that need them that you have or want them, then you're good to go. That's an
Yeah,
easy.
and the thing too is discoids, if raised properly, they actually will birth twice as many young as a dubia can. I've seen them. The max I've seen births was almost 60, if by a
Out of one
single
Utica.
female out of a single discoid.
Wow.
Dubious
Wow.
can't produce 60 nymphs in a single go, but a discoid is also a whole inch bigger.
Wow. That's pretty excellent. That's pretty excellent. And I think I have a wonderful blue tongue skink now who I'm adored with. And she's not a huge fan of dubias. She doesn't get them very often. I'd usually just
Start
give them
feeding
to her to chase.
silkworm. I've seen blue tongues tear up silkworms.
Well, I gave her a hornworm, like a good size hornworm. I let it sit. I let the cup sit and let them get massive, and it was pretty funny. It was they just beat the hell out of it and smash it against the glass and the whole. And it's like just eat
Yep.
it, just eat it.
Yep.
What are you doing? It's hard to watch, but it's at the same time it's hilarious. It's a weird thing being a reptile keeper because some of the stuff you're like, oh, really? What are you doing? At the same time, you're laughing like a maniac. And that's
Oh
one.
yeah, I know. That's why I keep firebelly toads next to my workstation. It's not
Okay,
that I'm not a big frog person. I mean, I like frogs, but I find them entertaining when I'm working on bugs. They're all piled up in the corner, just staring at me at my workstation.
that's
I find it
awesome.
entertaining.
I got to do an episode about firebelly toads. Like I'm obsessed, and they're super hard to get now. They used to be everywhere, and it's a whole thing. But I'll get into that on something else. But love a
Oh yeah.
firebelly toad. Just a cool animal you can do a lot of cool setups with. But all right, what else are we talking about? Silkworms. Let's get into the silkworms. So benefits of silkworms. Give me a rundown on what the benefits of feeding silkworms are, and then we'll get into some
So
other fun stuff.
silkworms. All right. So when you look at hornworms like treats because of the high moisture content, right? So too much
Yeah,
moisture will give you reptile diarrhea.
sure.
Silkworms don't have that bad side effect because their moisture content's not nearly as high.
Okay.
It's probably little. It's probably I want to say a little less than half of what a hornworm is. Um, and that's because even when you make the foods, the hornworm food even requires more water to make it than the silkworm food. So silkworm food also is a thicker consistency. Um, and so that's what I think kind of plays a part into it. But the protein levels on silkworms is actually high as roaches,
Okay.
which makes them a more readily stable feeder that you can actually feed silkworms more per times per week than you can superworms technically.
I thought the
And
fat content would be off the charts. Like you hear that about waxworms, I just assumed. I haven't
no,
heard anything. I just assumed that silkworms would be super fatty too.
no, silkworms are not actually fatty. They have good quality, a good amount of fat, a healthy amount of fat.
Healthy one.
Uh,
It's the good fats. It's like an avocado instead of a, you know.
exactly, because they have the mulberry peptides in their stomach. Now, the mulberry peptides serve as probably one of the biggest benefits to them, to be honest. Especially if someone who's a breeder, like if you're breeding stuff like bearded dragons, blue tongue skinks, chameleons, whatever.
Okay.
After they lay eggs or get wherein blue tongue skinks give live birth, it is a great feeder to use right after a birthing process. They're great at weight recovery because of how balanced they are with good fats and the good quality protein. But they also are kind of like the equivalent of us taking a baby aspirin a day. They have
Okay.
mild pain relieving benefits as well as anti-inflammatory benefits. So they actually do have like the same effect to a reptile as an ibuprofen, pretty much. So it actually helps the females bounce back, recover quicker. Because of course they're they just got done pushing out 20 eggs. They're sore. Let's not
Sure.
assume they're
Sure.
not sore. Any us as humans, we need epidurals and stuff before giving birth. Reptiles are just as sore. They just don't have really a way of showing it. But there's breeders out there, big breeders such as like fairy tale dragons, breeders like Ron St. Pierre out there that are here in Florida. I supply them with silkworms during their breeding seasons by the thousands. That they feed off to their dragons, blue tongues, everything, and they swear by how quickly they bounce back and that they're getting an extra clutch or two because of the females' faster recovery times.
That's a good investment. That's a good investment.
Yeah, especially during breeding times. So especially if you take in an adopted reptile like a dragon that was not well taken care of, there's lots of them out there that have MBD that are adopted, and silkworms is actually like a medicine you can give to them to help soothe the discomforts of bad joints, even gout. If you actually look into it, gout medicine is based off of silkworm peptides. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
It's a
silkworms is like
superfood.
it's a superfood in every writing category.
That's wild. That is what. See, guys, did you know this stuff? What is that? Because of the mulberry. What is all this talk about mulberry? What are we talking about? Mulberry peptide?
So
Is
the
that what they
way
eat? Is
yeah,
mulberries?
so they eat mulberries, yes, and in the way it digests in their stomach, it forms peptides. And the peptides is the type of peptides that are in their stomach is what causes all those medical benefits.
Oh, okay, okay. So then that's the way they break it down is what's gonna release all that goodness
Ex-
into whatever he's.
exactly.
Got you, got you. So now I heard from you, and then I did very bare minimum research that having silkworms in America is almost like having pandas in America. Like there's a whole process, except they don't take your silkworms back. But
Yeah.
there's a whole process where, like, you don't have adults, you're not breeding them.
No, so I mean, there are some people who do breed them, on their own in small quantities and stuff like that. But like for our purposes that we need, we need anywhere from around 500,000 to 750,000 eggs a month. So in theory, in order for us to produce that many eggs, we would need it would take thousands and thousands of moths. I would need to run like a factory um, of hatching moths. And the thing is the moths, frustratingly so, only live for 3 to 5 days. In which
Yeah,
case, as soon as they hatch, they'll pair up. That's not the issue. But they will mate till death. They'll
I
stay
heard
linked
that.
they will stay linked together unless you manually separate them and then put the feed. So basically, when you see them link up, time it for 24 hours. then if they haven't dislinked by then, you got to manually unlink them and then put the female on top of like any type of paper that you're going to let, use for the eggs laying and stuff because it sticks to whatever they lay it on.
Sure.
And then some types of silkworms have to go through a what's the term I'm looking for? Where like a winterization process.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Like
in
a
order,
I can't think of it either. The ants
yeah,
have a thing, diapause, like a diapause.
yeah, diapause. There you go. To become viable. Now that's hasn't always been the case in my experience, but it seems to yield a better hatch rate if you do it that way.
Okay.
And that's kind of a close guarded secret where a lot of people won't share unless you just trialed and errored it enough to really figure it out. So it just wasn't in my interests or benefit to try to produce the eggs on our own
I
because
mean, it
also
sounds
there's
like,
the
yeah.
issue is that through generations of inbreeding, right, they're already extinct out of the wild. So they're already 100% domesticated insect. They've been
Sure.
domesticated since like the mid 1800s. So there's been never any kind of new blood in existence since the 1800s. So everything is literally genetically inbred to a point that is irreparable. And you know, they can't fly anymore. That was bred
Right.
out of them. So they're already, like I said, out of existence. They can't fly anymore. The newest issue is that the moths don't have, they spit like an acid when they first, hatch out in the moths. That's basically supposed to melt the cocoon in a
Okay.
sense. And then they push their way through. So it's
Okay.
soft. So it softens the silk. It's some digestive enzyme they shoot out when they just their process, and they found that it's getting harder and harder for moths to break out of cocoons now because they have started to lose that ability. So even a lot of these places that are mass producing the moths to produce eggs, they're actually all having to self assist on cocoons. That they
Can
cut
you
little
imagine
holes
that?
at the ends.
Thousands
Uh,
and thousands of cocoons, and you got to have a guy come through with little tiny scissors or whatever to give him a head start.
what they do in those third world countries for what their pay wages are is between them and, and themselves.
Holy
But
mackerel.
yeah, pretty much
You just
it's a
made me worried. Like, silkworms are just going to be gone. Like, they're going to crash any day. Like, this is crazy.
I mean at some point, right? Genetics it's already we're already seeing it. They don't fly. They you want to say they probably lost like a 20% hash rate out of cocoons already permanently that is just hit the population. And not only that, it just they face it. So the reason why a lot of people don't deal with silkworms is silkworms probably have more diseases than or are susceptible to more forms of diseases than any other type of feeder out there. That's what gets
Sure.
frustrating about them.
Just ruin
Um,
their immune system with all that inbreeding. Like, it's just bad news.
the silkworms have always been a joke. If you sneeze on them, they die. Um, so
So
it's
sad.
yeah, it's like a lab type set, cleanliness in the room that we have, um, where we have to upkeep constantly. Um, Mold will kill them. They'll get a disease called Fletcheri's disease. I've ran into it twice. There's no way to prevent it. It happens. When it happens, you have to throw out the whole batch, and it's frustrating. They stop eating. They get like a waxy color to them, like a glossy color,
Okay.
and then they just start kind of shriveling up on themselves, and then they die. And so it's like there's that issue. So that can make people quit doing silkworms because they don't know what they're looking for when it comes to stuff like that. And I mean, I didn't notice my first two times when it happened, and I had to figure it out. And Like I tell everybody, it took me 9 months of repeated killing and probably a dozen and a half tries before I was even started selling silkworms. Um, because I just couldn't get a high percentage of live success rate. Um, it took a lot of trial and error. A lot of feeder people I talked to that tried to add them. They said, "Yeah, I tried silkworms 3 or 4 times, and I just gave up." And it's like it's hard to keep flushing money down the drain to try to figure out
Yeah.
something that you just constantly don't. Because with all feeders out there, I'll say this with all feeders, right? Because this is an issue that we're even running into right now as we expand waxworms. Waxworms are produced in the hundreds of thousands. But I would like you to go to Google and try to find a sorting method to sort out hundreds of thousands. There is no information out there whatsoever. Everything is kept so close guarded. You get 80% of the information you need, you got to figure out that 20%. And that 20%, I mean, we're always constantly having to figure out new tools, new devices. Like I'm trying to make, like I'll just say it because I mean I don't even know if it works yet or not. Like so then like our new trial, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make like some kind of device that like works like a say like a weed eater top, right? But it stays more in like a cone shape where the wires will just break through like the honey bran and web mix that the waxworms kind of make themselves into to free up the waxworm so we can get it sifted out. But I don't even know if that's going to work yet. I mean, that's the crazy stuff that I have to try to think about on a daily basis. And it's like, I wish there was just an instruction guide sometimes. But because the issue is, I know two of the nation's largest waxworms producers have discontinued them in the last year.
Oh
So
wow.
waxworms are probably going to see go up in price over the next year, 18 months. I
Sure.
think it's going to change. Like just like superworms. Superworms I've watched go from, I mean, they've gone up just in 2 years. They've gone up 100%. Um,
Wow. Well,
it's
they've always been kind of expensive. I remember they've always been like one of the before I started seeing hornworms in the stores, like waxworms was the top shelf, and my freaking skinks won't eat them. So,
Well, the
or
thing
my
is, well,
skinks,
the
my
waxworms, believe it or not, they're still so heavily used in the fishing industry as panfish bait, right? You go to gas
oh yeah,
stations that sell live bait, you go open up their fridge, bet you see waxworms in there.
that's so
So,
cheap.
so waxworms are, they've been produced in mass, but you won't find any information on the sorting process. You'll see
Sure.
people say, "Oh, put cheesecloth on or wax paper on top of the substrate and let them climb on top." Okay, well, I need to pull 300,000 of them a month. That doesn't work.
No.
So yeah, those are just constant, struggles, and it's frustrating for a lot of people who try to get into feeders, and then they really get going, and then they hit a huge wall that they can't, um, get over, and then there's no instructions how to get over, and then you don't really have people who will help you out unless you befriended somebody in the industry who's
Yeah.
willing to part those secrets away. And usually, it's in exchange for something.
Well,
Like the
yeah. That's
person who taught me silkworms, I now sell bulk silkworms too. So
fair.
there was a few tips and tricks I was still missing, and well, they're in their 60s, so they don't want to produce as much as on their own, but they've been selling feeders for 30 years. I'm not going to say the name,
Sure.
but
Sure. Sure.
silkworms was always a constant main feeder for them to sell, and they always had a hard time finding suppliers. uh, I gave them good genetic stock for discoid roaches one time at a show a few years ago, and we hit it off. And then eventually they gave me tips on silkworms. They gave me tips on waxworms. They'll pass. The older people will pass off their knowledge, but the one thing I can say is the older people or the older generation that handles feeders, which unfortunately a dire situation for the feeder industry as a whole, is anyone my age, around my age, I'm only 31, but we were all told go to college, become doctors, lawyers, all this other good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these guys that are now in their 60s, 70s that are still the only cricket farmers in their area. They don't have kids to pass it off to, and there ain't no one taking it over because there ain't no one with the knowledge to buy it and operate it. So, like, reptile industry was, has been in a solid uptick through COVID. Yeah, there's a stall right now. Those that are tough enough and that'll weather the storm will definitely make out, in a year and a half, 2 years from now, in my opinion. But because unfortunately, you have a lot of people with COVID money, have the ability to buy reptiles they normally wouldn't with all that stimulus money.
Yeah.
And they're, going to make themselves into breeders. Now, this is the current state of the reptile market, in my opinion, is all result to that. And the weekends will fold. The people who are in it to be in it, they're going to weather the storm. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we saw a glut. Definitely, the industry saw a major glut in a lot of the more common, like easier to breed species, like you were talking.
ball pythons, cresteds,
Yeah,
gargoyles.
we're gonna get into that. Give me a second to ask some questions from the audience here. So I got to backtrack a little bit. So the silkworms being ibuprofen, Sandy breeds skinks. She bred my blue tongue. She was wondering like how many, what'd you say? How many silkworms for a normal sized postpartum blue skink?
Oh man, postpartum, you can give them 6 to 10 all day, and just let them
6 to 10 at a time.
Yeah, 6 to 10 worms, large worms, especially if it's just after birthing.
Yeah.
They're empty stomach usually at that point. They're usually starving for nutrition. That's also kind of another thing too is silkworms have a lot of vitamins because of that mulberry as well, like just natural vitamins. So
That is wild that they're such a beneficial feeder, and they're just. I mean,
they're
that's obviously not their main purpose, right? You want to make silk, so
yeah, it's just their medical benefits. I mean, and that's kind of like Chinese medicine too, right? Chinese are the number one. China and India are the number 2 countries for eating silkworms, and it's been in their diet for decades.
I mean, probably centuries, right? They've been doing crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, they eat
So
everything that moves and crawls.
who knows if it works? But like bear peen, they're all about like, oh, let's grind up this bear peen and put it in our Cheerios, and it'll help us like Viagra. Maybe stop chopping off bear peen. I don't know, man. Um, then Adam had a question. I think Adam might be new. To feed our businesses spray or feed something to prevent cocooning. Some sites are making that claim. I want to see what sites are talking about that.
Wait, cocooning of silkworms?
I guess anything that cocoons, like waxworms too, right? They have a cocoon process, or no?
Well, they do have a cocoon process. Yes, they can cocoon outside of a. They can pupate outside of a cocoon, just like silkworms will sometimes randomly pupate outside of cocoons.
Okay.
Is there any process to stall it? I mean, the only process I know for silkworms is to make sure they have food available, right? Because they're creatures of nature, right? So if they don't have food after a certain size, nature instinct is to use whatever energy you have to try to get to your final state. Um, so, they'll try to spin a cocoon even if the worm probably shouldn't when they run out of food.
So just
Um,
keep them fed. Keeping them fed stalls it out.
Yeah, keeping them fed stalls it out. Silkworms can go a good 45 days before they cocoon, where
Okay.
horns are at 21 days.
Okay, fantastic. I haven't ever had my hornworms. I know I probably got close, but I never had them cocoon on me. So, because you get them, and then I get them, and then I kind of forget I have them because I give like one or two out of the 6-pack that I get, and then they're just in there. Then I go to check, and they're like, I don't even know how many times the size of the tiny little hornworms that I got. They're like my thumb, basically.
Yeah,
Good
I
size thumb.
compare hornworms to silkworms it's like a bratwurst to a hot dog. As far as the width goes, when it comes to max sizes, that's another thing that makes silk so popular. Is even a max size silk can be taken down by a leopard gecko, right? You
Oh
buy
yeah,
hornworms for your leopard gecko, and you don't feed them off in time; they get too big, so you can't even feed them when they're maxed. So they
yeah.
just go to waste if you don't have something bigger to eat them.
And that's like who knows how. What is that like? $2 a piece now? PetSmart you're looking at for hornworms? Like whatever it is like $2 or $3 a piece. It's ridiculous.
You know, I deal with over 80 pet shops across 22 different states now. And I can tell you, I know shops that sell silkworms for $3 to $4 a piece in the Midwest.
That makes
Um,
sense. I can attest to those prices.
it, it blows my mind because, I'm not trying to throw them under the bus or anything. I could tell you they don't pay more than a quarter. You know
per
what I'm
per
saying?
unit.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, for each worm they pay roughly around a quarter. So it's
Uh,
sometimes I always give them pieces, because I've always been like, even when I do shows, right? Like you'll catch me, especially for 2024. I will be at every Reptilian Nation show.
okay.
Um, which I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're he runs big shows. He runs huge
Okay.
shows. He's competing with NRBC and stuff
Oh
like
wow.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, his attendance. He throws knockouts, nothing but knockouts. I've never been to a show where he's never done less than 9,000 people in the door. Um, it's yeah. I mean, you can't even see the table across from you. There's so many people. Yeah, people trying to break through the middle of the islands because the walkways are that full, and he has ridiculously wide walkways to be that full. Um, and he'll have a line at the door. A lot of shows like the tout, oh, we had a line when we opened that wrapped around the building, but of course they
Yeah.
went through that line by 11 o'clock. No, Reptilian Nation will have a line at the door until 2:30, like a nonstop line. It just
That's too
never
much.
ends.
That's a hard pass for me. I don't go to buy anything. I go there to talk to people and try to make contacts, and it hasn't worked yet, but someday,
I mean,
someday.
I honestly, when I started doing feeders, I worked in call centers for 10 years. I talked to a buddy of mine, actually, Alex Blunt of
Okay.
Isopota Auctions. He was a general manager for Miami Reptile Company, and he told me they could never find a stable roach supplier. They told me how much they paid for roaches. I quit my job a year later, and I've been full time since. And I just went to every Repticon, every show I could possibly go to, and I go to every pet shop booth, every breeder booth, and even before I had stuff to sell, I was just advertising myself. Oh, I have this coming up, and you just set realistic dates. Don't promise somebody to deliver something that you're not going to be able to deliver in that time. And
That's just good business. Yeah.
don't overcommit. Like I have pet shops. Just this week alone, I've told 2 pet shops that are not on my guaranteed roach list. I can't offer you a guaranteed supply of roaches. Even though we're producing 500,000 roaches a month, we cannot handle any more shops than we're currently handling on guarantees. So they get whatever guarantees or whatever shops that do have guarantees. Should they not need stock, then those kind of get thrown up to the guys on the waiting list, so to speak, for free dibs, you know.
Man, there's
But
so many
I
worse
mean,
problems to have, right? That's a great problem to have.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. And I would love to stock every shop to the fullest I can, but what most people need to understand is most pet shops, even your minor pet shops, they go through $200,000 to $300,000 in feeders a year. That's every month. That's just the mom and pop shops. You're not even talking about anything big box.
Yeah, which big boxes here or there, they're just going to buy the cheapest thing they can get. So it's not like I prefer to buy my
Look
feeders
at
and pay
like
premium.
Brian Brazak of the Reptarium up in Michigan. He did a video one time covering his feeder costs. He spends like 80 grand a month in feeders a month. If just and he's just one person.
I'd have to be catching stuff outside. Like there's there's no way. There's no, I mean, I guess he's doing it, right? He's making the money. Obviously it's there. He can afford it.
Oh yeah.
At least a little bit, right? So what were we asking? I missed a question. We were talking about something before the show. I won't keep you too much longer. But you wanted, I think this is important too. So you wanted to talk about crested gecko food, like the
Oh
prepared food.
yes. Okay. So
Well, go
anyone
ahead,
here
guys. Strap in, guys. It's gonna be good.
Okay, so anyone here who breeds crested geckos, I'm not going to call out any names or nothing, but please do not tell customers to sell a gecko that you never have to use feeder insects. They can survive purely on Pangea food. Pangea is a supplemental diet. It was made as a supplemental diet. Now, Pangea does have one mix now that's out there. It's a newer mix that actually involves freeze dried insect protein powder into the mix. So that one works pretty good. But even the biggest of the crested gecko breeders that tell you they can survive purely on Pangea, what they do is they feed theirs Pangea, but what they do is they put that Pangea in a blender with a bunch of crickets and they blend it into the Pangea itself. So that way they don't got to worry about chasing around crickets, everything like that. But cresteds are meant to have insects in some shape and form and actually can have 100% insect diet and be very, very healthy reptiles. Um, so that's one of the biggest things I get at shows because they'll go and they'll buy a crested from somebody. I know the crested gecko market is oversaturated. I know it is hard to sell a crested gecko, but you should not sell them under false pretenses. They're like a puppy and you can just go buy a bag of food. Um,
I get that.
that.
There's a lot of the geckos that the arboreal geckos that are billed as being rapace only, and you see them in the wild. Obviously, they're taking bugs. I just think it's good for them, like good
Well, that's like a Knowles, right?
enrichments. Yeah,
Like even the most basic kind of a Knowles, brown and green anoles, they eat fruits, right?
yeah, they do because they're
Yeah,
eating the
they
stuff.
love fruits. They actually from talking to from what I know from like Ron St. Pierre, who he breeds he used to do a lot of the giant blue beauties and like the
Oh yeah,
crazy giant anole species, and the albino Cuban knights and stuff like that. Like
jeez.
he fed his like a 35% diet of fruits.
I heard that I was talking about this with somebody. It might have been Russ, but the evolution of that we got on this whole evolution kick, and them going for the fruit flies and maggots when they're little. They're going after rotted fruit, the or soft fruit. So then they got that. Basically, they were ingesting it anyway, and then all of a sudden they were like, "Wait a minute, this is
Well,
we."
yeah, here like we have 3 30-foot mango trees, and around July when the mangoes are in season,
Yeah,
um, you'll see Cuban night anoles in all of our trees during that time of year, and I catch them licking the nectar off of the mangoes that are busted open by the birds and
see,
stuff. Um,
I
yeah.
would save so much money on exotics if I lived in Florida. I would just go out back and like leave food around for whatever's nearby. Just,
Oh
okay, they
yeah.
came to my yard. That's enough for me.
I got discoids running around my property.
See, there's how you get the good genetics. Scoop them up.
Well, those ones I'm pretty sure are escapees. I ain't even gonna lie. Um, when you handle, like I said, 500,000 roaches a month, it's it's guaranteed 20, 30 of them get out, and we found adults. But yeah, no, the one thing is with discoids genetics, we do every 2 years we make a hard effort in collecting a bunch of wild caughts. No, we're not
Yeah,
buying wild caughts and just reselling wild caughts. They go through an entire almost a 1 year quarantine process that produces the breeding stock of our future for the next 2 to 3 years before the inbreeding becomes an issue again.
yeah,
Um,
that's just good business. Like, whatever, why not? It's free stock. You're doing the right thing with it. I mean, you couldn't go through as many as you're going through if you weren't. You couldn't just go through and catch those out of your yard or a field or whatever. You
oh
wouldn't be able to
no.
wild catch those numbers.
And discoids unfortunately hit a genetic wall a heck of a lot faster than dubia. They only last about 7, 8 generations before
Really?
you'll see production literally get cut in half.
Okay. So you've
And
got to keep bringing that new genetics in.
well, the thing is the pheromone the males release to attract the females becomes less enticing over the inbreeding. So the
Okay.
females are just not even attracted to the males anymore to breed.
I mean,
So they
same
just
old flavor.
ignore it.
Same old flavor, right? You got to
Yeah,
mix it up a
pretty
little
much,
bit.
you know.
That's
You
wild.
know, sister cousins, you know, twice removed, you know, and
Mm.
it
I
just
mean,
doesn't
it's
work no
Florida.
more.
It is Florida. So, I mean, it's not Georgia, but it's close. I'm just saying there's a reputation. So, and I'm sure you have to worry about, like, so is it hard to get the discoids in Florida when you catch them wild? Is it hard to get them like detox from meth, or is that not a big deal with roaches?
Well, yeah, right. So basically, you know, we have a small shed that we keep all the wild caught adults in. After they have their first generation of offspring, those get moved to another room where those get grown out to be the breeders.
I can't imagine
So
this facility.
basically, yeah,
It's got to be
and
wild.
then once the adults that we have die out, then we're back in full process. Um, and that's what we've been in the midst of doing since January.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I
Well,
had something that was supposed to push me along. I'm not naming names or nothing, but threw a wrench into the process, so we're a little behind right now. But we'll be back up and running in about 2, 3 months on the roaches.
it is hard. It is hard counting on other people for things to kind of fuel your dream and your motivation. Because the littlest thing, you think you're taking it for granted, and somebody throws that wrench, and you're just it jacks up the whole plan. Then the
Oh
next time
yeah.
you're like, do I trust another person with this? Do I just do it myself? Do I figure this out?
Well,
Um,
see, and that's one thing I can tell you. A lot of people say that I'm a little bit crazy, maybe, because I do willingly take on employees. Where you'll see a lot of people in the industry where you'll hear them, "Oh, I'll never work or have someone work for me," but then you hear them working themselves to death.
yeah,
Basically.
it's
Um,
like, what do you want to do? Do you want to? Are you in this to kill yourself, basically? Because I don't know. Nobody's retiring on a cricket pension. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You gotta have help. You gotta understand that not every person you hire will work out. Will do what you tell them to do. You can hand them a golden platter with a spoon and a fork, and um, they'll smash it on the ground, and it won't even make sense. But
Yeah,
um, I can't. I mean, I've lost at least half a dozen times to the tune of between 10 and 25,000 in feeders through one situation or another. And there's nothing you can do besides shrug your arms and
yeah,
restart.
yeah. You got to figure it out. Like, it's just too much. I like that there's still innovation in the feeders thing, and I'm always an idea guy. So the last thing before I let you go, reach out. Let me see what you're talking about. reach out and explain to me what you're talking about with sifting through waxworms, because I want to try to put my brain to use on that. I'm always coming up with weird solutions to weird problems, so maybe I
Yeah,
can help out.
well, the waxworms are a beehive pest, right?
Oh,
So
they were asking about that earlier. Good, good. Yeah.
yeah, so the thing is you got bran, um, honey, glycerin. They suck the honey and glycerin out of the bran, and then they one way they damage beehives is they spin a type of silk, their own kind of silk, and it just becomes just this stringy, sticky mess, and
And
it's
then you got
just
to get the little fragile waxworm out of the middle of it, basically.
yes, pretty much.
Huh.
And you got to figure out how to break that up without damaging the worm.
That's the question. I'm imagining like a one of those big gold sifting sieves that they had in the Wild West, something along that lines, or like you're talking about something that goes in and kind of like stirs it up, basically.
Yeah, breaks it up so that way we can figure out some kind of sifting pan to go with what we can break it down to.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that's kind of what the challenge we're facing right now, and trying to expand in that.
Awesome, awesome. I got ideas. Um, you got anything else for us before we go? What am I missing? What did I miss?
All I can say is if you're a breeder and you're breeding baby reptiles, you should always push black soldier fly larvae. You save many of your customers from MBD later problems because they're the highest calcium feeder out there. Um, and giant mealworms are horrible for your pets. I'm just also saying that too. The biggest thing I get at shows is, "Hey, do you have giant mealworms? I see you just have regular mealworms." It is actually more nutritious to give two regular mealworms than a giant mealworm. A giant mealworm does not just mean a bigger mealworm. That was something that was GMO'd, genetically modified for specifically the fishing industry. They do not have any extra additives to their size. They are literally a hollow food.
That's wild. I think it's a good thing that silkworms have kept it or like have that side effect because you wouldn't think it because they're super genetically modified, like not as feeders, right? They're genetically modified to be silk producers, basically, right?
Produce
Or
as much silk as possible, yeah.
yeah, so it's like it's so weird. It's so fortuitous that it's such a good feeder because it sounds like that's like a top shelf, fantastic feeder.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just the difficulties of getting the food, the egg supply, because it's all finite and it's all actually linked to the silkworm trade. And it's all managed by, Chinese internationals that handle the importation of the food and the eggs to specific quantities. Um, because,
that's the
well,
mafia part. They got the
the
stranglehold.
yeah, it is a commodity. Silk is a commodity. They make silk to make bulletproof vests and
Yeah,
stuff like that. Silk is a very high end commodity, like sheep wool. It's people just don't let an unlimited amount of those go for no reason. So there is unfortunately a cap on it, which drives up the prices,
sure.
and it's yeah, it's a unfortunately, it's an issue that there is no workaround.
I mean, what would there be? Like, they're not. It's not like they're breeding. There's not new stock, like you said. Nobody's going to be coming out with new stock. Whoever has them, and can set whatever they want. So
Exactly.
whatever price they want, they got it. So it doesn't matter. So you just get in eggs, like you get shipped in eggs.
Yeah, yeah, I can show you. Hold on. I can show you what the eggs.
It's dope, guys. All right, here we go. Now, last time we had Andres on, or when we were going to have Andres on, he had actually hatched out a couple of flutter puppies for me to show you guys live,
I
and
have a dead one.
that's okay. I don't think there's anything sadder than a dead flutter puppy. Like that's bad.
But Yeah, so hold on. I don't know if there's a way to reverse the mic.
I don't know if there is on your camera. If you go to
Oh,
your settings, you should be able to go to your back camera. Under the settings, the camera, and then there should be like it should list the cameras on your phone.
camera. Camera 2. Ah,
There we
okay,
go.
there we go.
It's like a weird fisheye lens. I swear I'm gonna throw up this
Yeah,
episode
see,
from motion sickness.
these are all the fruit flies that have to go out tomorrow.
Oh, you got plenty. You just send me one. I'll get you my address. We're good. Look at this. Oh my gosh.
So this is where we keep all the silkworms right now.
Okay.
This is this is a tray of these silkworms.
Can you guys tell I don't have my glasses on? I'm like, what?
Yeah, these
That
guys
looks
ain't.
like shredded newspaper. It just looks like shredded newspaper to me. There they are. Those are not as cute as they're gonna be.
So there's probably like 2,000 in a tray like that.
Well, this is easy. You don't have to separate those out of anything. That's just so the hatching is a real trick.
Unfortunately, there's a dead flutter puppy.
Oh, they're way smaller than I thought. Holy cow, that's small.
Yeah, and the thing is the worm gets bigger than my thumb.
That's wild, and that's what comes out is this little. Now, see, I read and saw that when they hatch out, like so, if they come out of their cocoons, they have to be careful, the breeders, because
There you go.
the males will just swarm the female. Oh wow! But the males will swarm the female cocoon before she even gets out and just like rape her to death as she emerges.
Yeah.
Like on a swarm, like a big swarm of males will just be like, nope, it's time.
And then this is like the first step in the process, the raising the
Oh,
deli
that's the
cut.
babies, yeah.
So those are the next batches up and coming. Those are the derpy fire belly toads. They're waiting for their tank upgrade over there. And then these are the eggs.
Oh my god! So do you keep them refrigerated, or like how long do you have? Like they show up, and how long do you have before they start hatching out right
Well,
away?
they can be refrigerated for up to 4 months.
Okay.
And then they start to lose the percentage on the hatch rate for probably another 2 months.
Wait, is that
And
25,000 eggs? Is that what that says on there?
yeah, I have 75,000, and I have
Right there.
120. I have 125,000 coming in tomorrow.
Okay.
So actually, hold on, wait. No, these haven't started hatching yet, unfortunately. But
So just hatch in that little thing then. They just start hatching right there.
well, they can, yeah, but I'll split them into deli cups.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get the light on this. If I don't know if you can see it really well. I can't really
Let me get my
zoom
glasses
in.
on here.
Wait, hold on. There we go. I figured out how to zoom in. So you'll see how they're starting to become a lighter gray right now. When you first get them in, they're like a very, very dark gray. They turn light gray like this when they're about 72 hours from hatching.
So you know this now. So
24 hours from hatching, they turn blue.
Oh, we lost him. I think he was trying to switch his camera back. He'll be back probably. That's pretty fascinating, you guys. I didn't see that. It's a lot of silkworms. Yeah, you're not kidding. So he's talking about big, big numbers. He's one of the biggest silkworm dealers in America. I think top 3 or something, maybe number 1. I don't remember. Let's see. Let's make you guys bigger again. I don't even know if he knows he's not here. This is what's funny when you get people that. The thing I find funny about doing the show is it's my show, so I kind of know what's going on. You guys know I really don't, but the guests, a lot of the guests have no idea. That's why it's a treat having Wally and Russ on because they, obviously they have a moderately successful YouTube channels, so they can always say, "There he is, there he is back, kids."
I hit a button, but
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, this is one of the workrooms here.
Whoop. Here we go.
See, and then like I can show you actually because I have one here right now. I have. Let's see. You'll see. Where is it?
You'll see. Poof. And he's gone. Who do we got left? We got 6 people left. Beetle guy, I saw you come in. Sorry I didn't say hi. But we are back. There he is.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's a small phone, big fingers. I know the problem.
So, see if I can zoom in here. So you see those little block dots in the back there? Those are the waxworm moths. And that's the stuff they live in, is like that. Or it's just a grain and brand mix of all different kinds and sorts. And actually, you can see waxworms in the side of the bin there. You see them?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
indentations?
They remind me of the fruit fly larva, like a way bigger version of the fruit fly larva, because they burrow into that crap that they eat.
Yeah, but, this whole area is dedicated for nothing but fruit flies, silkworms, and that's it.
That's wild.
Because it's and the thing is the roach buildings are 4 times that space.
Well, I mean, you're doing so many more, and you're actually breeding, like full-time breeding. Now, do the waxworms breed for you too? Can you breed them in the bins?
Yeah, they self-populate. So waxworms have an 8 week life cycle from start to finish,
Okay.
and then when the moths hatch, they actually live for up to 2 weeks, and they lay about 600 to 800 eggs in their lifespan, straight into the bran. So basically 200 we throw 250 waxworms in a bin when we start, but if you take into account a female lays up to 600 eggs,
yeah,
100 females, that's 60,000 eggs.
So you just kind of set it up, put them in there, and just leave it for a while.
Yeah, we just leave it for 8 weeks. We don't touch it for 8 weeks. We don't do nothing.
So after 8 weeks, you come back and you've got thousands of waxworms.
Yep, and you just pull them all out. It's self-sustaining. The only thing we go in there to do is after the moth wave happens, we go and pick out all the dead moths.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I wonder if you can you feed the moths to anything?
Oh yeah, you feed the moths to like micro gecko species,
jumpers, stuff like that.
More,
yeah.
Well, yeah, jumping spiders would go ham for the moths. To be honest, they're perfectly sized for adult jumpers, and they're a type of hopper moth, so they don't really fly. They kind of just, like when you walk through the grass when you're walking your dog or something, and you see the little moths jump up and go into the grass blades. They have that same type of flight ability. They don't really take off and go long distances.
They just kind of do the hop. So they're pretty close to not having the ability to fly, a lot like the silkworms.
Yeah.
Like assisted leap.
Yeah, crazy. And so if you ever have a beehive infestation under your house, this is just a hidden tip. You can take a bunch of waxworms and throw them right into the nest and just ignore them. And they'll crash the beehive nest. I'm just saying, I did it for my grandma's house.
Just throw waxworms in there. And then he came back, harvest the waxworms, sell them to somebody else. Boom.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's just they'll finish themselves out. They'll stay in the hive until they eat all the honey, and they rot it out, and then that's it for that colony, pretty much.
That's too wild. And then you come back and catch the waxworms. Now they're free range. You can sell them in California for big bucks, my friend. So
yeah.
Is hippie still a thing?
I'll be in I'll be in 2 California shows this year.
Get that U-Haul ready. Just saying.
Oh no, I'm air pallet freighting and I'm flying out.
I see you in a box in the middle of the pallet, like we're almost there on your little tablet.
Oh yeah, no. Like when I do like when we did Denver, we put everything on an air freight pallet and just paid shipping to have it taken out, and I just flew out there and picked it all up with a cargo van.
That's wild.
So,
So
and
what's I got one last question for you.
yeah,
One last question. Then we'll let you go. You look like you're about to pass out. I feel bad with my East Coast folks because it's late. It's late there for you.
oh yeah, it is temperature cool.
Especially working that hard, getting up and cooking for 12 hours. Like Walter White didn't cook that long. So that's crazy. It's another meth joke. Sorry. I had a bunch ready to go. I'm taking it easy on you. What's the next big feeder? What's the next big thing? Silkworms being like, I think they're like the one right now, right? They're the big deal everybody's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, right now the best feeder right now, I think, is silkworms. I can tell you there is a desperate demand for superworms because the superworm virus has still not been remedied yet.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So is that why I can't find superworms anywhere? Is there
That is the main reason why superworms have been consistently going up in price over the last 2 years. That
it's weird to
virus,
me.
that virus shows up, and once it does, it's an airborne virus, which makes it even worse, makes it harder to get rid of, and it's called the black deafening virus. What happens is your superworms will curl into a C shape before they turn black, which they turn black really quick. You'll see like 3 or 4 dots along the sideline of their body, and
Okay.
then just they turn black. And there's no way to get rid of it. Any stock you had that was near it are permanent carriers. Many superworm operations are entirely shut down right now. Can't get restarted. I know people who have done everything under the sun to other than burning down the shed and building a new shed. Um, and they still can't get rid of it. So the supply and demand, supply is never growing right now on superworms. It is a constant decrease, and the demand is stably high and getting higher. And
Nice.
eventually, people will get dubia for cheaper than they pay for superworms if the pace continues.
I'm surprised doobies aren't that cheap now. Like the only thing that's different with doobies is like the space that you have to invest. You need more space than with the superworms, but that's the only
I
thing I see
mean,
that's different.
dubious to me, knowing what they eat and the fact that I have a farm in Georgia that I raise them at. So we raise a couple 100,000 dubia as well, and I sell
Okay.
them to my out-of-state pet shops because I don't dare bring them into Florida.
So
I get in.
interstate, your operation's interstate. That's pretty dope.
I'm fully like I said, I supply shops in 22 different states. So
Yeah.
I'm yeah, I have small operations in different places.
Awesome
And
mafia. Okay, cool, cool.
yeah, it's just staying on top of it. But yeah, dubia. I mean, it's bad to say this, but I get 5 times the wholesale value in discoids over dubia.
Sure, sure. It's definitely worth more time. Um,
and and it's heartbreaking to say that because it's like gut punches selling dubia. They're so rock bottom low. I mean, if you know a person, the right person, you can get 1,000 small dubia for $30 right now.
yeah, the problem is I think that if you buy, everybody sells starter cultures, right, with like 30 or 40 dubia, and then you're good to go. If you just have a small collection of animals like me, like I bought a starter culture 3 years ago and it's still going. It's not going like gangbusters. I don't keep it on any real heat because I don't need it. I don't need that many. But I can go basically for a lifetime. I could buy a couple more here and there to throw in fresh genetics. But like I have like 4 animals that eat dubia, so I don't really need
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
mean, and that's kind of the thing with them is a lot of people got self-sustaining on them, and honestly, not saying I want it to happen, but Man, a slight price correction would be nice on Dubia, just a little bit. Because yeah, the margins in Dubia are starting to get to the level of crickets and and mealworms.
Well, these are
Like,
stores. Here's my advice: if you're in 22 states with all these stores, like, tell them to stop selling starter cultures. Like, don't
no, they actually
delude that you
don't. They
can do that.
refuse to sell starter cultures.
Okay, because here in my area, like
They
everybody
hate
has them.
starter cultures.
Yeah, why sell them something that you can't? It's just bad business. I appreciate it, but if you want somebody to breed roaches, like they should have to do their own homework. Like you had to do your own for all of your cultures. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I mean, well, like at the end of the day, even when I said sell starter cultures, and this is just knowing, um, I know that 7 generations down, they're gonna hit the wall. And unfortunately, with the discoids out there, everybody has the same genetics. Um, Everybody's discoids are off the same discoids in the US. Now, I can say personally, not only do we have the wild caughts that we put the time in to catch, but we also have imported discoid blood from out of country. We
Okay.
have, yeah, we have 8 localities of discoids we had imported out of country. So we have genetics that can't even be found here. And that's the only reason why I've been able to continuously grow discoids for 4 years and haven't really hit that wall yet.
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
I figured I noticed it early on and I corrected it right away. But not everybody has the capability of importing from out of country. Um, or knows the people to be able to import out of country or the locations to find the wild caughts. So, not trying to say I sell people handicaps, but it's definitely something that doesn't get spiraled as far as out of control as the dubious, right? You're going to get a good solid year and a half, 2 years of good production, supply your own animals, and then you're going to have to probably call me again for a fresh starter colony.
Right. Which I mean, still though, that's a year and a half of free feeders. From my initial $25, $30 investment tops, and then
Oh
I'm good to
well,
go.
discoid colonies don't go any cheaper than about 80.
Oh, discoids? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm still talking about Dubia. Dia's so cheap.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Dubia, you can breed the same 100 roaches for 5 years and still keep breeding them.
yeah, yeah. So you're looking at, I've had I've only had mine a couple years, but since not even since I got my ant colony. So, or since she got big, this tank here is an ant colony. If you don't know, I'm always showing her off. It's this tank, and there's a tank right here too, the 30-gallon next to it. You can't really see it, but anyway, that's one ant colony, 10,000 or so, I think. Um, but yeah, 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 yeah. So they eat some roaches like crazy. Whatever else I put in there, I tried to go bioactive, but it didn't last. It didn't take.
Yeah, it's not really worth it for Dubia, honestly. Like discoids,
Yeah,
small discoid colony, I'd recommend if you just want a small personal discoid colony, you could run them with some powders because like the substrate permium makes for me can support life of isopods. Well, that you like powders and stuff, and
sure,
you can
sure.
throw those in there. I mean, the biggest bioactive control we use on discoid roaches is we use the H-mile predator mites.
Okay.
Um, I don't know their science name, but um, their favorite food is fungus gnat larvae and
Awesome.
grain mites. So for every new colony we set up, we buy from like Argo, this like agriculture company that you buy, stuff bugs you can release into your garden, whether it be ladybugs or those mites. You
Yeah,
buy this huge like salt sized like container, and it's just filled with mites. It's just entirely filled with mites. And we take like a teaspoon, and every time we set up a new bin, we take a teaspoon and we throw them in there. Now, even though there's no grain mites in it, actively at that time should
Yeah,
grain mites rear their heads. We're in Florida. We deal with heat and humidity. Those are the conditions grain mites love the best.
sure.
So we have to run dehumidifiers to keep the rooms at 40%, because that 55% threshold is where they start to rear their heads. Um, Not saying we have a grain mite infestation. One thing I tell everybody is I don't care how clean you are, I don't care what you do, your cleanliness keeps them from appearing. That doesn't mean they're there. Their eggs float in the wind, and
You're gonna get them.
their first and second instars can stay first and second instars, which are unseen to the human eye for up to 2 years. Soon as conditions right, they finish the adult stage in a matter of days and are laying thousands of eggs.
I mean,
So
my audience is pretty on board with knowing about they're gonna get grain mites. They're gonna get those fungus
yeah,
gnats. It's gonna happen.
so just like green mites go dormant, H mile mites go dormant until there's enough food. Then they boom with the grain mites, and they'll take
Nice,
out all the grain mites, and then they go redormant again. And we just
nice.
never deal with the grain mites.
I mean, it happens. It happens. And if you get them from feeder colony, whatever. I don't know anyone that would be like, what the hell? Um,
Oh, you'll be surprised.
I'm sure there are people. I'm sure that your things came with fruit flies. That's what you're gonna get. Or what did we get? Sewer gnats? Somebody was telling me they were like that. That's not what that is.
Oh, okay. That's the flies that I deal with roaches. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, my roaches got fruit flies." Your roaches do not have fruit flies. Your roaches have a fly called a forage fly, phorrid.
Okay.
Um, Also nicknamed coffin flies. Actually, the black flies you find flying around your sink drain a lot of times are actually not fruit flies. They are forage flies. And They feed on dead, decaying matter.
Okay. So there are other
And it's,
detrivores. They're just detrivores too.
yeah, and well, they like the more protein death stuff than the decaying matter.
Okay.
Um, but like
Boo, grandma, that kind of stuff. Okay.
yeah, I've seen them lay eggs into a dead roach, and I have watched a roach break in half, and it have 200 maggots in the inside of the
Gross.
abdomen. And yeah, those things are a constant. There's no way to get rid of them with as many roach count. We run, 250 40-gallon bins, so one dead roach is all they need. And the grain mites like to eat the maggot. Not the grain mites. The H mile mites eat the maggots of those guys as well.
Awesome. H
Yeah.
Mal. How do you say that? How do you pronounce or how do you spell that? H
Yeah,
Mal.
if you just do like H period and then MILE, and then mite, predator mite, you'll come up with you'll see it come up in Google.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I got them on Amazon. I had them on Amazon, and I use I used them inadvertently to kill an ant colony that I had, a fungus. They're fungus ants. And so I had something in there I didn't want that was going to eat the fungus, and I threw the mites in there, and then the mites, like, I don't know what they did, but they basically destroyed the fungus that was there too. So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, even if you buy reptiles with like snake mites and stuff,
yeah,
you could throw H mile mites in there with them, and they'll pick the snake mites right off the snake.
they're pretty awesome. Yeah, they are pretty awesome. You'll get all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's just you can't put them in anything with springtails because as soon as they run out of food, that's the next food.
They go right to the springtails. Yeah. Well, that's a problem too, keeping them in a small, like in my little location here. Like I'd have to scrub my hands surgically to go from one bin to the next.
Yeah, no, they're wanderers, so they're not something you want to have in range of something you don't want them to wander into.
Right, right, right. You got to get them like having dwarf whites, same kind of thing. Dwarf white ice pods, like you're gonna get them
Out
everywhere.
of 300 bins I had, I never kept dwarf lights for that reason.
That's most people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I never realized there was a problem, and then people were telling me that they outcompete the mankai of the species you actually want, and so that species will slowly die off.
Yep, and they
Uh,
flip and get everywhere.
Wild. And now I'm looking to get more of the devil's rice. So, because I got to get them for some other setups too. But hey, man, get some sleep. It was awesome having you. You did great. You did great. I learned a lot. And I'm totally interested in having you back on eventually to see. I
Oh,
need to get some more
definitely.
questions compiled. This is awesome. I never thought I'd be this fascinated by feeders. And yet here I am. Here I am, like, I have a million more questions.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anybody ever has questions, we're always open to people messaging us because we try to do our best to educate for variety over ease.
That's a super key to trying to get on the show or having somebody on the show is that they're into educating their customers, educating the public. So, oh, hey, Fishy Plumber
Also,
show. Yeah.
don't feed Savannah monitors nothing but rodents. They're an insectivorous monitor. Just wanted to throw that in there too.
That's where you need giant mealworm. No, katydids. Just feed them katydids. That's the next big thing.
Yeah, right. No, I see so many Savannah monitors bought and sold, and they're just fed rats and mice. Like, oh, I want to have a cool monitor that eats this big stuff. No, they're 80% of their diet is supposed to be insects.
What kind of insects are you getting that size? Like, that's where palmetto bugs come in.
Adult bath heads, adult discoids work wonders. Large silkworms work great. Large hornworms work great. I mean, even as adults, they'll still chase down crickets. I mean, Savannah monitors don't have a really big, full-grown size and monitor.
Yeah.
Terms. I think what they max out like what 3 feet or 2.5 feet,
like
something like that.
A smallish tegu kind of size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're smaller. Well, yeah, they're even smaller than tengus. They don't even get as big as tengus. So they're an insectivorous monitor. So that's just one thing else too. That's something I see more savannas die from malnutrition because their stomachs and digestive tracts can't handle nothing but fur and bones.
Well, there you go. There you go. They like it, but it doesn't mean they eat it nonstop.
A pinky is okay for a treat, and salmon is great for a treat. And the same goes for Ackie monitors. Ackie monitors should be purely insectivorous as well.
I don't know anybody that feeds a lot of rodent to their Ackies, but I don't know a ton of Ackie people. But the half a dozen or so that I know are mostly bug feeders, so that's good.
Yeah, Ackies, because they kind of have that narrowed face, smaller face. They take a lot more smaller insects than savannas, but I've seen a lot of people cut up chicken breasts and other stuff. Like we breed them myself, and they'll get salmon for a treat every now and then, but that's about it.
It works. Whatever they like, that's good. That's good to know. See, guys, we're learning. Do more research on your lizards too. Reptiles. We'll just say reptiles. They don't have to be lizards.
Yeah, I got 400, but that's for another day.
400 reptiles? Yeah, that is for another day.
I got over 400 reptiles. Fat tail
next Tuesday.
Shout out to Lecco my gecko. If you're ever looking for a fat tail, talk to that guy. But
nice. Lecco my gecko, guys. We're gonna be chock full of links in the bottom here. Hey, Andres, thanks again, man. I had a great time.
Sir.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Yes, definitely. Look forward to next time.
Awesome. Poor guy's passing out on us over here. He did great. That was a great guest. I learned a lot, you guys. I hope you did too. I learned things I didn't think I was going to learn. So I didn't know we were going to learn about monitors today, but that's awesome. I will say definitely look into more of what your animal's eating in the wild before you start trying to feed it. So, yeah. So, yeah, we'll get into more of that later or in the comments. Throw some comments down. Let's get active, okay? You can go to ISO Buddies on Facebook. Check us out there. We have a chat. Apparently, there's a big group chat. You can just go in there and talk about whatever. So, did you miss the talk about bat mite? No, bat mite. Nice, Reed. Different kind of mite. But was that you earlier? I don't have my glasses on then. No, it wasn't Reed. Somebody else said something about a bat mite. But it was awesome. I had a good time, guys. So yeah, Facebook. We have a chat in Facebook, apparently. I don't know how long it's been there. I just noticed it literally this week, like 3 days ago. So The group's active. I just don't know how active, really. It's been there for like years now. Whatever. We have Patreon, IsoBuddies. They're patreon.com/IsoBuddies. The slash is for, I don't know what the slash is for. I was trying to come up with something at once. Savings, but you don't save anything. It just takes money. It's not, you don't get a discount on what you donate. So it's pretty nice though if you want to. We're looking into getting new cameras that hopefully offset the light a little bit. Because the lighting, I feel like a washed out circus clown right now, the last couple of weeks. So we're going to work on that. We have, what else? Yeah, join us next week. Next week is going to be Podsgiving. So if you have any ideas for what we can feed our animals, if Wally and Russ haven't made it this far in the episode, I think I'm going to put a foot into a bin of dairy cows. Just let my foot sit in there and see what happens. So I got a lot of dead skin on my foot. We'll get a camera on there. I think a camera on Sheila would be a lot better. So maybe we'll just have that going on. We'll have a camera on Sheila, and then I can move my camera into the foot bin, and we'll see what happens. I'm not 100% sold on that yet because I have a thing about spider touch. I have a sensory issue where I can't have that kind of bugs crawling on me. My whole skin crawls. But guys, have a good night. Be good to each other. If I don't see you next week, have a great Thanksgiving. But I hope to see you next week because it's Podsgiving. Take care of yourself. There's a lot of mental health things going on right now because of the sun being not there anymore, ever. So take care of yourself. Get a flashlight. Do some sun therapies. There's lights that you can get that simulate sunlight. I have one right here. So I don't just sit down here in the dark or whatever, down here in a basement with artificial light. Okay, I do. But this artificially lights sunlight. So for humans. So and get your vitamin D. Keep your vitamin D up, guys. So if you have to use Viagra to get that D up, and then whatever, that was awful. That was awful, and I'm sorry. I love you guys. Have a good week.